check out the New Music Monday podcast with me and Pax on Mondays at noon. And if you don't, you suck.
What's going on, everybody? It's me. Still no decorations in my video space, but we're still making videos. Now today I'm straying a bit off of my own beaten path to do a 65432 review on the latest Vampire Weekend album. 65432, 6-minute review, 5 things to know about the album and the artist, my 4 favorite tracks on the album, 3 adjectives I have to describe the album, and 2 potential ratings to give the album at the end of this review. Is it hot or is it not? I only deal in absolutes. Vampire Weekend started out as 4 guys, each about to graduate from Columbia University, who decided, you know what, if we keep gentrifying these African music sounds into our Ivy League indie pop aesthetic, well, this shit might just pay our student loans. And yeah, that's pretty much exactly what happened. By a couple years' time, they had come out with their debut album, Vampire Weekend, in 2008. Blogs around the world are eating out of the palms of their hands. They come back, they double up with Contra in 2010, also an album just full of bangers. In 2013, they do Modern Vampires of the City, another good album. Fast forward a 6-year hiatus, and here we are in May of 2019 with the band's 4th studio album, Father of the Bride. Now, it's worth mentioning that between this album and its predecessor, we have lost a band member. Rostam, the lead producer and backup songwriter, has departed from the group for reasons that are mostly unknown to the public, so Ezra, Chris, and Chris are carrying on in this new endeavor without him. And that reminds me, this does sound kind of like a Ezra solo record with the bassist and the drummer for the group sort of backing him up, but we'll get there a little bit later. Let's talk my 4 favorite songs on the album. As you may already know, this album has a lot of songs on it. Off the top of my head, I think it's 18. So it was a little difficult to narrow it down to 4 favorite songs, but there were a handful, 6 or 7 songs probably, that I found myself coming back to a lot. And I think out of those 6 or 7, these 4 were certainly my favorite. At number 4 is Flower Moon featuring Steve Lacy. Well. It turns out there are 2 Steve Lacy features on this album. In the track listing, they are sitting back to back. Lucky me, lucky you. The bassist, singer, songwriter, producer for the band The Internet comes onto this particular song, Flower Moon, a very shadowy figure, a little groovy, a little mysterious. Overall, it sounds great to me. What a pleasant surprise it ended up being, finding Steve Lacy twice on this album, Flower Moon being a bit of an upgrade to Sunflower, which was a single released before the album. That song I think is good, but I can see why some people find it really annoying. Ezra and Steve on Flower Moon, however, is a really nice collaboration. At number 3, Unbearably White has a pretty laid back and calm, yet rhythmic beat. It's really tasteful, it's really instantly gratifying, it's easy on the ears as soon as you turn it on, so this ended up being my favorite single released ahead of the album's release, and of course one of my favorite songs, period. Number 2, Rich Man, comes directly after Unbearably White in the track listing, so this is one of my favorite sections in a pretty lengthy album. I think if you're into the eclecticism, the musical curveballs that are being thrown into this album, then I think this would be one of your favorite songs as well. Like, there's a strong sense of nostalgia coming out of the sound of this song, but it's hard to place where that is actually coming from. Kind of reminds me of Never Going Back Again by Fleetwood Mac. Then these super heavenly violins come into the chorus, and I'm left only able to think about like all the Wes Anderson movies I've ever seen. Again, those violins are super lovely, super heavenly, super catchy, hard to get out of your head, and it was a really close runner-up to my favorite song on the album. But it's not my favorite song on the album because Hold You Now featuring Daniel Haim is. Yes, the very first song on Father of the Bride did end up being my favorite. I suppose that could be looked at as sort of a bad thing, like this album only goes downhill from that moment. I don't necessarily feel that way, but I definitely noticed this being the song I had to come back to the most. Ezra and Danielle do 3 duets on this album. Each of those songs has like a country twang to them. These are the 3 countryest moments on the album, really. Now, those other 2 duets, Married in the Gold Rush, and they're not great. They're some of the weaker points on the album, but this is an emotional country banger. And it serves as a palate cleanser, something that sets the tone for fans that are coming into this album still with the taste of those past 3 Vampire Weekend albums kind of in their minds. I think this is Ezra's actual best performance, along with the best performance by anyone else on this entire album. I guess put your best foot forward, because this makes for the best song on this album in my opinion. Now, 3 adjectives I have to describe this album. We're gonna start with folky, because pretty much off the bat, I think a lot of people noticed the very Paul Simon-esque musicianry and songwriting on the entirety of the album, really. Now, I'm not super well versed in white people music culture, so I had to do some of my own due diligence and come to my own conclusion that yes, through and through, I think Vampire Weekend has pivoted to folkier sounding music, at least on this project, and that can certainly be highlighted and hammered home by the Paul Simon resemblance that is pretty easy to pick up on. This album is also eclectic, so it is Vampire Weekend, but it's also a lot more. Again, this album is very folk based, but it's also indie, it's also very pop. Obviously there's those country moments, and even just how those things intermingle from one song to the next is pretty unpredictable. That may just sound like it's all over the place. But me personally, I do respect the ambition, and that takes me to my last adjective to describe this album: ambitious. I personally am going to give Vampire Weekend a lot of credit for stepping out and making a project that I did not expect, because in reality I would have probably expected them to rest on their own legacy before I would have expected them to go in the direction that they did. So for a band that is almost a dozen years removed from its debut album, again, we don't have a very pivotal member of that group that helped define the era of the first 3 albums. Again, I feel the need to give Ezra and the band a lot of credit for doing something new and something that sounds, for the most part, really nice and exciting. So, hot or not, I'm giving Vampire Weekend, Father of the Bride, a hot. Now, tell me down in the comment section what you thought. Favorite songs, hot or not rating, adjectives to describe the album, whatever you want, you drop it down in my comment section below. Like this video, like this video, like this video, follow me, and check me out on Instagram at Dev Del Molino, Twitter at Dev Del Molino. New Music Monday by Dev Del Molino Spotify playlist, updates every week on Spotify. Also on Spotify, you can find the New Music Monday podcast, and on SoundCloud, you can find the New Music Monday podcast. So whichever you prefer, please check it out. That's going to be it for me. I have been Dev Del Molino, and you have been so wonderful for watching, as always. And remember that art without favor is like a windmill without wind. So Dev Del Molino,